Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs. I am back for another video. No face cam today because I am lazy, but let's get into it. Today we're going to be talking about 7 of the most underrated films of all time. In my opinion, this isn't a definitive list, of course. I'm sure there are many other underrated films out there. Maybe I'll get to those someday, but for now, here are 7 films that I found to be incredibly underrated. The only creepy entry on this list, The Descent, offers an intense, claustrophobic, thrilling time in an underground cave system. A group of friends who set out to explore the caves are soon trapped within and hunted by humanoid, carnivorous creatures. Directed by Neil Marshall and starring Shauna McDonald and Natalie Mendoza, the film actually did decently well at the box office, and it got a sequel, which predictably wasn't nearly as good. Films like this just don't really make good sequels. Don't understand why the filmmakers can't grasp that, but you gotta make money, right? Fresh off the ultimate high of the original Star Wars trilogy, George Lucas was essentially king of the filmmaking world. When he developed the story for Willow and tasked a young but experienced Ron Howard as director, he no doubt thought he had another hit on his hands. He was wrong. Willow didn't quite resonate with audiences the same way that Star Wars did. However, just because it isn't a masterpiece, it doesn't mean that it isn't any good. The film is actually quite enjoyable. It's a fantasy adventure film, starring Warwick Davis and Val Kilmer. It follows their quest to return a lost baby and child of prophecy to her people as they battle against an evil queen and her forces. If that sounds like Star Wars, yeah, you're right. It's definitely a watered-down Star Wars. But hey, watered-down Star Wars is still pretty good, right? Following films such as The French Connection and The Exorcist, it looked like director William Friedkin could do no wrong. Then came Sorcerer, which released into theaters around the same time as a little film known as Star Wars. Sorcerer bombed at the box office and set Friedkin's career back somewhat. It cost $22.5 million to make, but only scored $9 million at the box office. That is the definition of a financial swift kick to the jimmies. Regardless, the film itself is highly overlooked. It has absolutely nothing to do with actual sorcerers, which may be part of the reason why it tanked. It does tell the story of several convicts living in an asylum in a South American village. When they are hired to transport wildly unstable cases of dynamite in large, beaten-down trucks, intensity ensues. The film is a fun ride, and it definitely deserves a second day in the sun, so check it out if you get the chance. One of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's first films, The Rundown is no masterpiece, don't get me wrong, but it is a lot of fun. Boasting the likes of Rosario Dawson, Seann William Scott, and Christopher Walken, The Rundown is a wild ride that has excellent action sequences, surprisingly well done humor, and an entertaining plot that sees Johnson travel down to Brazil where he gets mixed up in a wild goose chase, a rebellion, and a treasure hunt. If you got a free couple of hours, consider giving this film a watch for a good time. How can a Star Wars film be overrated? Well, allow me to explain. Revenge of the Sith is actually a pretty good film. Yes, it has some problems. I'm not going to deny them. Sometimes the dialogue sounds like it came from a B or even C movie. Sometimes there's a lot of just walking and talking. And yes, sometimes the acting is more wooden than a tree. But this film just gets a bad rap. This is largely in part due to the 2 films that precede it. Revenge of the Sith, on the other hand, has 0 Jar Jar speaking scenes. It has 5 lightsaber duels. It sets up the original trilogy perfectly. And say what you want about George Lucas's writing, but Palpatine's master plan over the course of the prequels was fantastic. If you're one of those people who has written off Revenge of the Sith with the other prequels, consider giving it another watch. You might find that it's a better film than you remember. If not, well, at least it's highly memeable.
Hello there.
General Kenobi!
I love a good space movie. I've always compared Interstellar with Gravity. Gravity was a much more well-received film than Interstellar, and it's always baffled me as to why. I mean, the entire film happened because Sandra Bullock's character made a dumb mistake that a trained astronaut would never make, and she ended up getting her 2 partners killed. Interstellar, on the other hand, is a daring mission to another solar system to save the entire human race. That solar system has a black hole. Things get crazy, things get emotional, and things get epic. Yeah, it gets a little weird at the end, I'll admit that. But seeing this film in theaters was one of the best experiences in a theater I've ever had. Interstellar has a phenomenal cast ranging from Matthew McConaughey to Anne Hathaway to Michael Caine, just to name a few. It's directed by Christopher Nolan and it has a great score from Hans Zimmer. It's simply a thought-provoking and beautiful film, with some of the shots of the ships moving through the cosmos being some of the most beautiful shots I've ever seen. It doesn't nearly get the same amount of attention as Nolan's other films, but it definitely deserves it. So if you haven't seen this movie, give it a watch, and if you have, consider watching it again, because I really think that it's truly underappreciated. One of Martin Scorsese's lesser-known films, The King of Comedy, follows the awkward, wannabe comedian Rupert Pupkin, played by none other than Robert De Niro. The film did not do too well at the box office, costing around $20 million to make and only grossing $2.5 million. That's another fine example of a swift financial kick to the jimmies right there, folks. The film follows Pupkin's quest for recognition for his self-perceived comedic talents. We witness as he stops at literally nothing in an attempt to achieve his goals. It's a little bit Taxi Driver in terms of the unrelatable protagonist and a little bit The Office in terms of cringy humor, but this film has heart. The King of Comedy is a definite departure from Scorsese's usual MO, but it truly is a sensational film. The great Jerry Lewis even plays a significant role in this film. De Niro is fantastic as usual, and you can't help but love his character, even though he is absolutely very hard to love. This is one of the most charming films I've ever seen. It's no doubt one of my favorite films by Scorsese. It's right up there with Taxi Driver, and it's right up there with The Departed. It's also a film that your average moviegoer definitely hasn't heard of. I highly recommend it. Well, there we have it. Those are some of the most underrated films of all time. If you have a film that you think is underrated, leave it in the comments below and I'll be sure to check it out. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe, it's totally up to you. I'm Zack, and I'll see you next time, folks. Bye!